Well, what's going on, traders? We're back with another video. In this video, we're just going to be going over 5 tips that I use to help get emotion out of my trading as much as possible. And if you want to learn more about trading, emotional side of trading, and supply and demand trading, hit that subscribe button now. Anyways, let's get right into it. I think that the emotional aspect of trading is one of the most difficult things to deal with. I've dealt with it a lot. I still do. Everybody does. I think that it's almost impossible to get rid of 100% of your emotion. You're going to be emotional no matter what. It's all about trying to get that emotion down to a level where it's sustainable in the long run, and you're not freaking out all the time or whatever, right? And to be honest, I still struggle with it. But I'm just going to be listing off 5 things that I've done to help my side of the emotional side of trading. So hopefully you guys can use these too, and it'll help you out. The first one, which I think is the absolute most important one, is risk management. Position size. Sorry, I'm having a hard time talking and writing at the same time. Risk management and position size. And the reason for that is, it's pretty obvious, right? If you have a size, if you're risking, I don't even know. Let's just say you have an extra $100 a week to spare for trading, right? That's what you have after all your bills are paid. If you go back and listen to, I think it was my risk management podcast, I highly suggest listening to that. It's very good, because I talk about how much to risk, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be 1%. It could be a dollar amount that you're comfortable with risking compared to how much you make, right? So let's just say after all your bills are paid, you have an extra $100 a month to spend on trading. You can risk it all. You're totally okay with losing that. That's totally okay with you. That's the price that you're willing to pay to learn. That's great. If that $100 though becomes $200, or let's just say you're risking $300 on a trade, you're going to be freaking out. You're going to be very emotional in that trade. You're going to be like, oh, what do I do? You're going to be freaking out. You're going to be watching it, and it's going to be giving yourself a little mini heart attack, right? So that's why I think position size, that's why I have this written down as my first one, because this alone isn't going to stop you from being emotional, but it will definitely help for sure. I don't know if you guys have been following me for a long time, but if you go back and watch some of my videos, I'm talking about how I'm scalping with an extremely small dollar amount, so I'm not freaking out when I'm in the trade. I'm just trying to learn, and that's why you should always decrease your size. Basically what you should do, take a trade with the size that you've been trading. If you're immediately like, fuck, I don't want to lose that $20 or $30 or whatever the dollar amount is for you, then decrease your size. That's my suggestion to you. Yeah, that's why this is my first one, because it's a huge part. Like if you do this first one, you might not even have to do the other ones that I'm going to mention as well. Anyways, so yeah, risk management, position size. Next one is strategy. And the reason I say strategy is because I'm not saying that one strategy is better than the other. People make money using indicators, whatever, right? Like we use supply and demand, that's fine. But strategy is another thing too. If you're one to get very emotional in a trade, then I don't really suggest like scalping or momentum trading, where like you're placing limit orders and shit, right? Because that'll definitely fuck with your head. If you're in a trade all the time, I was scalping a lot, using the 15-minute and the 1-minute recently. It was driving me nuts. Like it's not for me. Like I will scalp. I'm not against scalping. I still plan on using like the 5-minute and stuff, but on the 1-minute, it was too much for me to handle. I was getting way too emotional. I was losing a lot. Like I said, I was risking an extremely small amount. I was just trying to practice and learn. And I don't really believe in demo trading for that. So that's why I was real trading, and like the losses just killed me because it was like so frequent, and like the losses added up to like barely anything. My 10-to-1 trade I talked about a long time ago, like basically made up for all of that. But it just was something that I knew that it wasn't sustainable for me in the long run. Maybe I will be better at it in the future. when I'm better at dealing with my emotions and I have a better strategy. But for now, that scalping is not really for me. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's definitely not great for the emotions. So that's why I say strategy, because a strategy, if you're trading like a monthly, weekly, daily time frame, you're stress free almost, right? Like you're not looking at the charts all the time. You're not making impulse decisions. You might put in an order and not get filled for a week if you're trading out from that higher time frame, right? So that's why I'm saying strategy. It's very it's each strategy will fuck with each part of your emotions, right? If you're a long-term trader, the emotions that you're going to be dealing with is like, oh, like I haven't taken a trade yet. Like, is this even worth it? Like, am I even going to get a trade? That's the So there's a give and pull for each strategy, but some strategies are high stress, like scalping and high frequency, like scalping and momentum trading. Like, I've heard a lot of traders that say they used to do that and they had to stop because it was just so stressful. So yeah, that's strategy. That'll definitely help. Backtesting. Backtesting will definitely remove a lot of emotions when you're trading. I don't even think I really need to explain it. It's pretty obvious, right? If you have a strategy that you're testing and then you go back test it and you see for yourself that strategy works, you see the setup you want, then I mean that kind of, it'll help, right? Like let's just say you see a certain trade, you say, oh, I want price to be inside daily, a fresh daily zone. I want to see a fresh 1 hour zone. I'm going to take that fresh 1 hour zone. Let's just say you're back testing that. You see it works pretty good. You see the win rate was like 70% with a 3-to-1 or 2-to-1, right? Whatever it is. And you're like, oh, well, now I'm confident in that. I've seen it. I've back tested it. I've seen it for myself. And then next thing you know, you're on your live account. You see basically the exact same setup. When you're placing that order, you're like, you know what? I might lose, but I've seen this work. You're still going to have emotions when you're placing that trade. You have your dollar, you have your hard-earned dollars on the line. But after you've seen it back tested and you've seen it for your work for yourself, you've practiced it, it should remove a little bit of emotion for sure. And like I said, the whole goal of this video is to try to use all of these, and all of these will help you just remove emotion. Also, read Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. That's not on this tip list, but that's a huge book. I highly suggest reading that book. But yeah, that's back testing. That should definitely help. That has definitely helped me as well. And back test different pairs too, guys. This is a big one. Remove P and L. It's pretty hard to remove the P and L, but just don't look at it. I don't know if you guys have an iPhone. I have an iPhone, and then there's the widgets, and so basically when you open up your iPhone and you swipe left or whatever, it brings up widgets, and you can have like the weather and calendar and all that shit. And for the longest time, I had my P&L on there. So whenever I was in a trade, I would just be like looking at my phone every fucking 10 minutes, looking at my P&L, and like it was just completely pointless to do that. Like 100% pointless to do that. What is the fucking point? And if you go look at my last Euro USD trade, if I would have been looking at my last two trades that I won, if I would have been looking at that, I might have even have sold my position early. My emotions might have gotten the best of me and would have been freaking out. So that's why I highly suggest removing the P&L, because that dollar amount will just fuck with your head, right? Like it doesn't really matter how much money you're up. It's all about if you're set your target, set your profit targets, let them get hit. So now what I'm doing is I have my two positions. I take the trade. I'm looking at the trade until I'm in. Once I'm in, I'm gonna be monitoring it. Not really ever. What I'm doing is I'm letting my first take profit get hit at 2-to-1, and as soon as that gets hit, I go back to the chart. I'm not looking until that gets hit. I then go back to my chart. I adjust my stop loss according to my rules, and then I walk away again. I check back every hour or so, right? Like I don't need to be constantly checking. And if I do check, I'm going to be looking at the chart, not the dollar amount, because looking at the dollar amount will only fuck with your head and fuck with your emotions, right? You could make $100 on the trade, but at one point maybe you're down $50. What's the point of looking at that? You don't really need to look at that unless you're trading without a stop loss, which I don't suggest. I highly suggest just removing your P&L from your phone wherever you can and just trying not to look at that. If you look down here on my screen, I have my Oanda live. If I were to just click on that, it would bring up my trade that I'm in and my profit. I just haven't been doing that. I just don't even bother looking at that. I'm just letting my targets get hit, and I'm just looking at the chart. That'll definitely help. That's something huge that I've been doing recently that has removed a lot of my emotion. Oh, actually, you know what? My last one was stop watching. So that's funny. That wasn't my last one. I kind of just warped the two in, but by accident. But yeah. So remove the P&L and then stop watching. Basically, I talked all about that. And in order to stop watching, you need to have specific rules. Like what I said. I let my first take profit get hit. Then I'm looking. Then I'm adjusting my stops, and then I walk away again. So you need to have your specific rules for that, and all these rules, having rules will help with your emotions as well. Because I think the whole point of trading is to find a strategy, stick to the rules, and be okay with the rules. I always talk about poker. Sometimes you're gonna have a 7-2 hand, and you're gonna beat ace. Sometimes you have ace, you're gonna get beat by the worst fucking hands, and that's okay. You just have to be okay with it. You just have to have your rules and understand that in the long run, your rules will work over time. And by back testing and doing all these things, you should be able to remove emotion. And I think that it should help quite a bit. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. If I find any other tips out for removing emotion, I'll definitely make a new video. This is all I can really think about right now. There definitely is more things, but these are kind of the big 5 that I've been dealing with. And like I said, if you do all of them at the same time, you're not going to be 100% emotionless, but it should definitely help for sure, especially the first one, which is your position size. That is huge. I could know that I could be consistently profitable for 5 years trading the exact same strategy, and I could be like a millionaire, right? Let's just say I risk $1,000 on every trade. If all of a sudden I risk $5,000, 5 times more of my risk, no matter how profitable and consistent I am, I'm going to be freaking out when I'm in that trade, and there's no point of doing that. So that's why I believe your position size should be something that's relevant to your income, and anything that makes you feel comfortable with that, losing that, right? And read Trading in the Zone. That's definitely a very good book for that. But that's pretty much it, guys. If any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate that. Let me know in the comments down below. All right, take care, guys.